Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with theater's biggest names and part of the Broadway Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alan Seals, and this episode is with the executive producer for So You Think You Can Dance, Jeff Thacker. It was interesting because we were supposed to do this interview in person a few days ago, but we had to cancel because the in-person auditions for this fall season of So You Think You Can Dance were canceled here in New York due to the coronavirus pandemic. At the moment, they're still planning on going live in August, assuming everything is going to be taken care of by then, but they've adapted and continue to accept submissions online. The stories he has about the show's creation and the show's evolution just floor me. I mean, he was there from the beginning, from day one, and he still to this day, as the executive producer, loves to be part of the audition process and the selection process. He's very, very hands-on, and he has so much passion for this show. And as someone with a dance background, he has a dance background, he's thrilled to bring the world of dance and choreography into everyone's everyday vernacular. When maybe back in 2005, most people didn't know what a choreographer did or wasn't really in the Broadway scene or whatnot. Like, he's sort of bridged the gap. And the conversation we have is just really remarkable. So, Jeff, thank you for a great conversation. As always, before we get into this episode, please visit me online at thetheaterpodcast.com. You can support the podcast. I'm currently using all the proceeds from my Patreon account to have transcriptions made so that those who may not be able to hear the episodes can still experience them. You can visit my Patreon page by visiting ttp.fm/Patreon, Patreon. Please visit me on Instagram and Twitter, theater_podcast. And now, everyone, please enjoy this episode with Jeff Thacker.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
Today's guest is a 5-time Emmy nominee for his work on So You Think You Can Dance. He's the show's executive producer and has been with it since day one when it first aired back in 2005. Now, 252 episodes later, the show is still as strong as ever, and helping with the casting of contestants, judges, and choreographers, he's partially responsible for making the careers of some of the biggest names on Broadway now. Jeff Thacker, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Thank you. I mean, it's something I've been listening to all the time, so I'm very honored that you have allowed me to step into the Broadway podcast world, which, of course, I absolutely love.
Well, it's interesting. You reached out to me after my episode with Sonia Taya, who's a choreographer from Moulin Rouge and Sing Street, and has worked with So You Think You Can Dance for a couple seasons.
Oh, no. She's been there since season 4, so she's been there 12 years, 12 seasons.
Well, so how long? You've been there since the very beginning, right? Like all 252 episodes?
I've been there since day one, correct? And this season we're about to celebrate our 300th episode. So yes, day one. And if you could see me, you'll see I have gray hair to prove the fact.
Well, so I was going to ask you if you are going to have a season, because we were supposed to have this interview in person here in New York, and it got canceled, and we rescheduled it to have this online virtual interview because your auditions, you were coming to New York to do auditions for So You Think You Can Dance. And I think I saw that in Miami, and there was a third audition location that was all canceled. The auditions were canceled because of the coronavirus, right?
Correct, correct.
So are you still having a season?
Oh, absolutely. We still, at the moment, we are still having a season. So obviously, because of the restrictions and regulations that were imposed, and quite rightly so, of course, the in-person auditions that we'd normally have, our pre-screen auditions, had to be cancelled because of the rules and regulations. Hence, you and I are having this self-isolation interview. Although I can see you and you can see me, but thank goodness that others can't see me in this lockdown situation. So we took advice, and obviously we had to. We decided not to have the in-person auditions. But the auditions actually started out, and we have done this for the past few seasons, to be online submissions. So we asked the dancers to put online a minimum of 1 minute of a combo or a routine that they've done based on the style they would like to audition with. So that part, the first part, is still the same. Now with it not being to be able to see me in person, we have to think of the next stage we can do for the audition process, which we have in plan, and all those dancers that have gone through to the next stage will receive a surprise email from us asking them to do something which they have to then send back to us, and we will take the next stage. So it's exciting for us because we've never done the auditions this way. So it's going to be something incredibly new, very exciting. I think that we're going to be surprised by what we see back. And of course, the kids don't know this yet because it is a surprise. We like to keep little twisted surprises. So the audition process is continuing, just in a very different way. And I think that's going to be very exciting for all of us. I know the dancers are very pleased that, So You Think is coming back. And as I say, at the moment, Fox are absolutely planning for us to come back with a vengeance, and we will be on our screens very soon.
Are you going to be able to air the videos that you're asking for and the things that you're going to have the people audition with? You're going to plan on airing that in lieu of like having a full production crew on site?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I think if we get some amazing performances and we get some amazing characters and personalities, we're going to want America to see them. We want America to see what we see. So without question. So what we're going to ask them to send back to us is very important for them, because what I always say in the in-person auditions, it's not just what you can do, it's who you are. And So You Think You Can Dance has always been based on those two, that combination of what you can do and who you are. And so it's very important. For the first time, I think that we're going to see this come across on camera, because it's a TV show. So it's another element. So yeah, I think we will definitely let America see those people who are memorable and impressive.
Well, what happens when you get to the live round, the elimination round? Because there's always a big audience. You can't have an audience right now. Are you just kind of hoping that the quarantine is going to be done by that point?
Yeah, so we obviously hope that by because I mean we are due to be on air in August, because we were planned to go straight after the Olympics. Well, as we know, the Olympics have been postponed. So all the networks are looking at their summer schedule, and we have always been planned to start our show in August. And so by then, we hope the rules and restrictions will be lifted or somewhat relaxed so that we can do this. If they allow us to do it with an audience, that will be great. But if not, then I feel that we will still be able to show America the talent that we've been discovered. And obviously, going into this season, the judges will have a good say in who's going to actually make it into season 17, because at the end of all of this, we will sit down with them and go, here's what we've seen. Here are the block of dancers. Now tell us what you think. So the process will continue, but very much on an on-screen situation.
You said something interesting that you sit down with the judges and tell them what's going on. How far in advance do the judges see everybody? And like as an EP, are you helping guide some of who actually makes it on camera based on personality and whatnot, or like? I guess, this is reality TV and people are like, oh, reality TV is all rigged. So I'm sort of asking like, how much is truly authentic versus, we want this person to be here because they have a great backstory versus, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, of course. We have always, because we don't know. It's not a scripted show. They're not actors. They don't come in with resumes. We have no idea what they've done before. Normally for me on a pre-screen, I never ask their name. I never ask where they're from. I never ask at their age. I just say, okay, what style have you chosen? Now let's see what you do. So there's never any background for me. So in as far as how we process this, it's reality the whole way for us. So for example, we always have a filtration system. We have a grading system, and that's whether it's in person or online. In a normal audition, you'll get a choreographer into a room and you'll have 40 dancers, and they'll whittle it down to 20, then down to 10, and then maybe down to 5. So you have to take on what you can see. That's why I think it's very important. We also have an entire team of producers that if I say, oh, I think this person is great, or I think this person it's like a rough diamond, they're raw and with some polishing, they will always follow up, just like you're doing with me. We will sit face to face, or we'll sit and talking, and they will come up with an idea of who they are. Because in the auditions, if they get through me, and I'm tough, Alan. I am tough, very tough. This has been my profession since I was 18, so I'm very, very tough.
In producing or dancing?
Dancing, choreographing, producing. Boom, boom,
Oh, yeah.
boom.
Yeah.
So based on that, then if they get through from me, the producer will sit with them on a one-to-one straight after and find out a little bit more about them. And that's what's, are you, I always say dancer and dull begin with the same letter. You've got to tell us which one you are at this point. We're not just looking for dancers. It's never America's best dancer. It's America's favorite. And favorite means we like you or we don't. So it's reality is all the way down the line. Then when the judges finally have a decision, they will read notes about what they are, what the producers have found out about them, and see their performance. So again, it is, and we don't know. We're surprised sometimes, good and bad, when people are on the show. So all I can say to you is, it's not like an agent sending an actor into an audition and a resume sitting in front. Blank piece of paper. Doesn't matter what you've done before. Nothing or everything. What you bring in or what you send us at that time is what I take you for. I never go and look. If I see an audition piece, I never go onto Instagram and see how many followers they've got or what they've done before. I always, same level. What you present to me is what I'm going to take your audition on.
That's really nice to hear, especially in the Broadway community here in New York. So much of all things being equal, you're trying to cast this lead or trying to cast a lead role in this person versus that person. And 9 times out of 10 now, the person with more social media followers might get the gig, right? So it's become, the landscape has changed. And it's interesting because, so You Think You Could Dance, it started in 2005, right? Yeah. And YouTube, I don't think came around until 06 or 07. And so
I think it was, and also social media was like MySpace. Boom. I mean,
right. Bebo and MySpace. Yes. Yeah. Friendster.
Yes.
Everybody listening now is like, the hell?
Yeah.
But for you, do you go exclusively on who submits themselves, or do you actually have a team that's going out and looking through YouTube now? Because what I'm trying to get to is how casting has changed from 05 to now 2020.
Well, I mean, there's so many platforms of social media available. I'll give you an example, not so much really dancers, but certainly choreographers, because we are very aware. We always look out for new dancers, new choreographers. We don't reach out to dancers unless we feel, we might reach out to them and say, hey, we've been sent this, or we've looked at this, and is this something that you'll be interested in? Same for choreographers. I will give you an example of an idea. Let's just take a choreographer, and they go, oh my God, this choreographer, they've got 17.8 million hits on this piece. And the reason is because it has the word Beyonce in it, and everybody who likes Beyonce is going to click into everything. A fan is short for fanatic. And we all love those people. We have a great fan base. And I think that we are great fanatics, or so you think. But to me, social hits doesn't necessitate talent without question. So I personally don't go out and necessarily look at anything online on any social platform, unless somebody says, oh, have a look at this. This is what I did 4. This is what I did 2. So that's again, open book, open plan, open canvas. Just show us who you are, both choreographers and dancers. So that's how we really are a real reality-based show. We don't go out with established talent. Most of the choreographers, when I came here in 2005, I didn't know anybody. The only person that I had worked with in the UK was when I was producing a Kylie Minogue special, and I came across Michael Rooney, and he had asked Dan Carity to help him out. And Dan was the only person I knew. I didn't know anybody from Adam. So it didn't matter who they were when I came over. I wanted to meet them and see them. And that's how it's progressed.
That's interesting. So this is kind of an unusual episode because it's not specifically Broadway related. So I was going to skip over the personal history stuff, but you said something that really piqued my interest was that you started out as a dancer and now have become an executive producer. So actually, I do want to know your history because it sounds really, really fun.
Well, I started out very late in dancing because that wasn't anything that I wanted to do. I actually wanted to be a probation officer. There you go. That's what I wanted.
No
to
kidding.
do. So I still think I'm doing the same thing, but it just has music and movement around it. But that's what I wanted. That's what I started out to be, and I was very fortunate because way back then, the entertainment on TV was prolific. There was so many entertainment shows. I'm talking about late 70s. And I was very fortunate. I wasn't the best technical dancer. I wasn't the best trained dancer. I was a very raw, natural dancer. And my mentor was an famous English choreographer called Dougie Squires, who had a television group, had their own show live every night on Saturday night. And he always took dancers that were all shapes and sizes and forms and race. It didn't matter. It was who you were. So I was very fortunate. And in fact, Nigel Lithgow, who created this show with Simon Fuller, he was in the same group, but the generation before me. So he went through the same process as I did, but I was a generation down from him. I'm not going to say he's older than me, but he's older than me. And so I danced on TV. TV was my world, and I learned TV. And then it got to a point whereby I thought I should move on and try choreography. I didn't know if I could do it, but I just felt I wanted to get out when I was at the top of my dancing career. And so they were desperate. They were desperate for choreographers because the work was still, again, so much in demand. And I got one thing which led to another, which led to TV shows, TV series. And then music videos started to come in. And I was very fortunate to be asked I was working with a famous photographer who was a 60s photographer, even before me. But he was a famous photographer, and he asked me to come and do some music videos with him, working with models. And I went in and did this video, and I thought, oh my God, it's driving me mad because these girls can't even put one foot in front of the other. So I literally just took a day training them to do step, touch, sway, sway. That turned out to be the Robert Palmer video. And the Robert Palmer video went absolutely ballistic. I mean, it was Addicted to Love, just went crazy. So I ended up doing all the Robert Palmer videos, and then I worked through musicians, doing like people like Rod Stewart and all stuff like that, and still with the television career. And then it got to a point where I personally couldn't keep up with the way dancing was going. It was progressing so quickly, and hip hop is not my style. I love it. I wish I could do it. I've battled Twitch, I've battled Phoenix and Farside, you named Fiction. I'm not saying I won, but I battled them. I love it. And I just felt that I was in a position where I couldn't do what was the next stage or what was requested. And I didn't want to put an assistant in to do my work for me. So I stayed in the profession that I knew, which was television, and went into the production side and worked my way up from being an associate producer to producer, senior, then an executive producer. And then I'd worked with Nigel and Simon Fuller back in the UK. And when they'd created So You Think, they both asked me to come over, which initially was for 10 weeks. And next month, April the 21st, I would have been here 16 years. So that's my career in a nutshell, really.
Wow. Do you have insight into why they created the show? Because in like the late 90s, Survivor was like the first reality show that like really hit sort of globally, I guess. Because before that, there was like Real World and Road Rules on MTV, which, had a very specific demographic. But Survivor was the first show that I can think of that really just went apeshit on a global scale.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, So You Think started in 2005. That must have meant that a year or two prior, Nigel and Simon were talking about this. And do you have any insight into how the genesis happened?
I do. Back in the UK, both Simon and Nigel had worked on a thing called Pop Stars. And Pop Stars went into Pop Idol. Well, actually, Pop Idol went to Pop Stars. It started with Pop Idol first. And it was such a phenomenal hit over there that they were asked to come to America. And of course, they created one of the biggest, I think the biggest television phenomenon of all time in reality shows, which was American Idol. Mm-hmm. Globally. And they thought, well, if this works for singers, maybe it would work for dancers. How would we get that? How would we do that? And there were and they started to create this this idea and this format to use what they created for American Idol, put it into dancing. Mike Darnell, who was at Fox at the time, loved the idea and ran with it. We did one season. To be honest, I'll be very honest, Alan, when we were doing this, it was like when they called me over, they said, we're looking for a producer, because Nigel and I and Simon, we knew each other. So Nigel and I obviously had a huge dance background. So we knew what we were talking about. We were coming in with some foundations, and it was developing and moving. And I said, season 1, we never did the same show once. We made it up as we went along, really, and it proved, well, we did, because we didn't know what was going to happen about it. And so therefore, at that time, nobody knew about the show. Nobody knew, no one was training to come on to So You Think, which they do now. They spend 10 years of their time training to come on to So You Think. So we literally struck a gold mine and a diamond mine, raw, polishing people that become such firm favorites on the show. So the show was evolving and developing the whole way. And I think if you took from then, 2005 to now, nobody knew what the word choreographer meant. Nobody knew what the word contemporary was. It suddenly reinvented a whole language that globally, dance, the global language, which enabled it to be such a huge success. Thank you to the American viewers and to people that love the show. And I put this show on in 31 countries around the world. Dance around the world has been amazing. And switching back to just hooking on what you said about Broadway, one of the things that we definitely wanted to do was to cover as many different styles and genres and dance that we could. And Broadway and TV has always had such a divide in my experience.
I agree.
The two have never twained to meet. You may get a choreographer being on the Tony Awards, or you may get a choreographer from Broadway come to do the Academy Awards. But when we reached out, and this was season 1, we really wanted to bridge that gap and invite Broadway choreographers, established choreographers, and bridge that gap, because I think we offered something to each other. And that's what we wanted to do. And I didn't know any Broadway choreographers at all, except for the most famous ones that, of course, were either no longer with us or, wouldn't do it. And that has changed. And we've made a point of changing and opening up to so many new choreographers. And Broadway has opened so many doors for us. And we've opened so many doors for them, because the marriage that we have had has been amazing. And if you look at the choreographers now, like Warren Carlyle, Andy Blankenbuehler, Sonia Tyre, Mia Michaels, and it's also based on, Alan, honestly, on availability too, because lots of Broadway choreographers were tied up. But it's Al Blackstone, it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us to share their talent and for us to give America a showcase for them and a platform for them that hopefully they have experienced. I mean, Warren Carlyle, for example, like he rings up and says, "Are we back? Are we back?" And I go, "Yes." He goes, "Oh my God, I've got this and this." And he goes into a rehearsal room and sends me 30 seconds of a routine. He goes, "I want to do this." And you go, "Oh my God," And he has people like Melanie Moore and Ricky Ubeda and Gabby Diaz that are now working for him and have worked for him. So we are absolutely delighted to have had Broadway come home to us, and for Broadway to open their doors to television, which I'm glad the snobbery, which has existed, is so far been broken down, and the acceptance and embracing has been amazing, amazing.
Do you know what I think? In my opinion, part of that is what we were talking about earlier in the social media game, because now Broadway people, like TV and film, and you can take that home with you. You can watch it in a theater, and then when it comes out on, first it was beta, and then it was VHS, and then it was DVD, and now it's all streaming, right? So you could take that home with you and watch it whenever you wanted. Broadway is a live experience, live, I put in air quotes, and you go to a theater, you see it, you walk away, and you can't take it anymore. You can't see it anymore. But now with social media, you can connect with the people. There's places like Broadway HD that stream shows, and like so many people now have podcasts. The Broadway Podcast Network obviously is like bringing all of the Broadway community together in the new media of podcasting. And I think that, I'm sure I'm sort of assuming here, but I would suspect there was probably a lot of reluctance to let TV and film into the Broadway community because I feel like they had no choice. There was with the social media game bridging everybody and putting everyone more or less on equal playing field, because anyone can get a social media account. Then all of a sudden, these people who have no voice previously can have a voice and be taken home. Like you can take your leads home from Broadway and put them in your pocket on social media, on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever it is.
I think now, yes, I don't disagree. But then when we started, there wasn't, as we said earlier, there weren't these platforms. And I remember seeing some work from Andy Blankenbuehler, and I got in contact with Andy and I said, listen, would you consider coming to do something for So You Think? And he said, yeah, what would you want? How would you want it to be? And, I always say now it's what you need to do is to create something just specifically for So You Think. Andy Blankenbuehler came in season 4, same season as Sonia, came up for season 4 and did 2 routines for us. And we, certainly the show, we call them our family once you come into the fold. We stay in touch. And Andy came up and did 2 routines. One was New York. I just remember it coming down. And we gave the choreographer the opportunity to do what they do, to create. The difference between So You Think with choreographer and choreography is that normally on Broadway shows or TV shows, they're given a script, they're given a book, they're given guidance by the director and say, could you come away and do that? We say to them on So You Think, here's a blank canvas, here's your paint, do what you want. So we give the choreographer the freedom, the creativity to come up. Not all choreographers can do that. There are lots of choreographers that need that structure to work to. But the choreographers and choreography that has worked on our show to have a full creative, if you think about it, we do 13 to 15 original pieces of choreography every single show. That's what we do. So to give the choreographer the freedom to do it has been absolutely amazing. And I'll go back to Sonia, I met Sonia. She came. I like to meet all the choreographers, one-to-one to me. Dance is a medium as singers. You can put a bag over your head, turn the lights off, you can still hear the voice. Dancing is a communication. It's that contact, it's that experience and embracing. So I like to meet all the choreographers. So when I go to the cities like New York, I hook up and have meetings with new ones and blah, blah, blah. Sonia came into the office. We didn't talk about dance or choreography once. I fell in love with her persona and her personality, which has never diminished as far as I'm concerned. We went away and she came back, and one of her first routines she did was The Garden with Mark Kanamura and Courtney Galliano, which was crazy. I mean, Sonia is out there. She's out there and on it. And I remember she came back and created some amazing things. And I said to her, I'd like you to do a contemporary piece. And she said, I'm not a contemporary choreographer. And I said, you're a choreographer, aren't you? She said, I'm a jazz choreographer. And I said, well, I tell you what, you go away and do a contemporary piece, and I'll tell you whether I think you're a contemporary choreographer. She came back, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And so the choreographers that we have been so luxury to have on the show, like Warren Carlyle, I think is the most amazing choreographer, and I've known Warren for many years when he was a dancer too back in the UK. Warren has a specific style that we like on So You Think with dancers and choreographers, making your own handprint, and to be able to have that will give us the flexibility of having those different styles. I mean, Warren is a killer. He's a killer when he puts something on, but boy, oh boy, does he produce the goods. And we are so proud of all of them, of all our choreographers that have, produced such amazing Broadway shows and continue to, and now use some of our dancers. Because, for example, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Has the cast of Music Man been announced?
Some of it.
I don't mean Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster, but
yeah, there've been a couple supporting roles that have been announced. But
okay,
we can always hold this episode until it has been announced.
No. I will tell you that some of the faces, some of the profound faces that you've seen on So You Think You Can Dance auditioned for Warren and used them, So it's absolutely Al Blackstone, so many dancers, and if I look at someone like Melanie Moore, who's Hello Dolly, and now she's just, obviously the things are on hiatus, but she is playing the daughter in To Kill a Mockingbird on the national tour. Amazing. Ricky Ubeda is the understudy in West Side Story. Gabby Diaz, Ricky, Jess Laproto, Ariana DeBose, who was in season 1, and we could kick ourselves in the butt because in season 6, she went week 1. She was eliminated week 1. She's
I remember.
Now starring, yes, she's now starring in Maria and West Side Story. We are so incredibly, incredibly proud of our family. We really, really are. So, again, I think that I do believe that, and someone will correct me, and I'm sure, or they'll write letters to you. That's fine. But I do believe that So You Think You Can Dance is the main outlet and show to have embraced Broadway and its choreographers and its choreography with So You Think. But I'll tell you an interesting story. Do I have time?
Oh, please. Yeah.
Okay. So season 1, I was looking for a Broadway choreographer and I couldn't find one. Marty Kudelka, who choreographs and creates Justin Timberlake's tours. I said to Marty, I'm looking for a Broadway choreographer. And he goes, oh, a friend of mine's in Fosse. He choreographs. I said, oh, does he? What's his name? He says, Tice Diorio. So I said, oh, I'm going to call him. On the phone, called Tice and said, hey, listen, Marty's recommended you. We're looking for a choreographer. He goes, oh, I'm in Fosse. I went, oh, dang. And he goes, well, I've got a week's holiday. So I said, okay, will you come out and to New York? Will you come out? He said, sure. He came out. He choreographed for the very first season. It was a great hit. He did Steam Heat. He'd never choreographed in his life before. But
really?
No. He laughs about it now. When I say choreography as in a performance piece in front of millions of people, he took the opportunity, he took the challenge, and he delivered. And that's what Tice does. And now, season 4, he won an Emmy for his choreography. It was with Will Wingfield and Jessica King, and he did what we call the Adam and Eve number, and he won an Emmy for that. And now look who he works with. So we are, again, so incredibly proud. Look at Travis Wall. Travis Wall, I cut Travis on his very first audition. I cut him. And he came back to a second city and got in. He was the runner-up that year, season 2, in 2006. He went on to become he went on to be nominated, not the first contestant, the very first contestant ever to be nominated for choreography. And So You Think was Dimitri Chaplin for an Argentine tango. But Travis got nominated. He's been the most prolific nominated contestant and Emmy Award winner. And I think it's full circle to come on audition, to be cut, to come on the show, to be a contestant, to choreograph, to be nominated and to win. It's given us the kudos of what we have, and all our choreographers that have won Emmys for choreography. They've worked very, very, very hard for it.
It's one of these things that's been around for so long that it's become an institution in many ways.
Why do you think that is, Alan? Why do you think So You Think You Can Dance has sustained and is still popular as it is?
Oh gosh, I think it for several reasons. One of which is that it brings to the forefront of pop culture something that many people are curious about and don't have experience with. Like for me personally, I love movement. I love being athletic, but the straight male thing that I was encouraged to do as a kid in a small town North Carolina was go do sports. It was not sing, it was not dance, it was not perform or anything like that. And so when I get so much enjoyment watching the physical aspect of I guess I'm kind of rambling, but it's a physicality that I wish I had experience with. And I can see myself in some of these kids, and they are, and I'm 39. They're younger than me. Obviously, I can't move like that anymore, but I never could because I didn't have the training, right? But it's a way for me to experience something through the television that is much more accessible than on a stage. And that's why I was attracted to acting and stage in the first place, is that it's a home, it's artistic, it's expressive, it brings a family together. And for you and your team to be able to put that on national TV and international TV, I think, is bringing people together. Art brings people together. And this is an expression, it's one of the highest expressions of art that you found out how to commercialize in a good way. And the trickle-down effect from that is, like you were saying, it's just when you have a platform like TV, then all of a sudden you start to win awards, and then you start to go back to Broadway, and then you start to do tours. And like, again, look at Ari DeBose. I've seen her. We both come from the same place in North Carolina, so like I know her from long ago. And just to see like stepping stone, and it makes total sense. It makes total sense how everybody just wants to connect with each other, connect with the dance, connect with the music, connect with the movement, and then the way that the show is narrated and edited makes everyone seem real and authentic.
Well,
and
we're live, so we don't even edit. We're live.
Well, like all of the backstory stuff.
Yes, of course. The narrative, which I think is very important. So I'll ask you a question. If we take the dance community and the dance fans and people love, why do you think it appeals to people that didn't even know what a pirouette was, didn't even know what contemporary was? What do you think that is the appeal that So You Think has with those people that know nothing about dance and nothing about technique?
I think it's just awe-inspiring. It feels good to see amazing movement with music that touches you at a skill level so high. Like I always say on the podcast that being on Broadway is the Olympics of theater.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know how to throw a javelin properly, but I love to watch it. I don't know, I played soccer, so I know the rules. Like the luge freaks me out, but I don't know any technique about it, but I love to watch it, right? So when it comes to dancing, I love to watch the best of the best, and to see things that people can do with their bodies and people can do with each other. And I don't know, when I think subconsciously when you're watching somebody be in the zone and really feel their movement and feel the music, you may, whether you're consciously perceiving that or not, you're sucked in and you want more of it. Well, and chemically in your head, yeah.
The press asked me that question, and they say, why do you think it's so popular? And I'm going to take the elements that you have, because I think you've touched on what I normally say. And I believe that So You Think You Can Dance beats with a heart. It has heart. It has heart not only in who the dancers are on screen, it has heart with what the choreographers bring and draw out of them. Because these kids aren't necessarily trained actors. These kids are but the combination and the elements that come together to produce something that emotes us as a viewer, whether it touches us, it makes us laugh, it makes us cry, it makes us feel, is something that dance brings. It's like as you say, it's like a song. So I think that it's a question of all those elements that come through. And I'm not knocking any other dance show, because I love the fact that there are so many different variants of dance shows on, whether it's dancing with celebrities or whether it's dancing in crews, whether it's dancing to just impress judges. There is enough slices of the pie for everybody. But I think that what So You Think You Dance has always had, and I call it like a little armada ship. These big guns come out, these big, huge, big, amazing variety shows. America's Got Talent and X Factor when it was around, and Dancing with the Stars and The World of Dance. They're big guns. This little frigate just sits there and comes through and survives whatever it's thrown. And I think that the fact that I know that we have been on air the same amount of time as Dancing with the Stars, but with them doing 2 seasons a year, they have far more series than us. But I think that because we both came out in 2005, I certainly think that So You Think You Can Dance has solidified its place in TV history for what we do, and I hope that continues. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. I'll tell you why. Because on your podcast, I love it. You go, I have 3 questions I ask people. And you just said so. But I'm going to ask you, okay, I might not ask you 3, but I might definitely ask you 2. You said, I can see myself up there. Not knowing. If you could dance in any duet that you've seen on our show, what one duet would you like to have been on that stage to have performed from So You Think?
Oh gosh. I can't pick a single one. I have to say though, I would let Mia Michaels choreograph me into anything. She's the way that she speaks through dance. Just Mia is, I mean, and Sonia and Warren too, if you're listening. I've interviewed both of them on the podcast, but yeah, Mia, absolutely just love gosh, I'll just stop there. Anything Mia does, I would want to try to do.
Mia Michaels, when I first met Mia Michaels, I had worked with Celine Dion back in the UK, and I was invited to go and see the Vegas show, which I couldn't get to see the opening. I was invited to the rehearsals in Belgium, couldn't get over there because too busy. So when I eventually saw the show, I wanted to know who choreographed it and found it was Mia Michaels. And I asked to meet her in New York, and Mia came into the auditions. And season 1, I was a judge on camera judge, me, Nigel, and Bonnie Lithgow, his wife. And Mia came in, and it was like we'd known each other for years. I don't call Mia a choreographer. I call her a creator. She is like a Wade Robson. Wade Robson and Amanda Robson are incredible. They work in a very different way. So that's when I say that each choreographer that we use, we absolutely adore working because they bring something unique and something different. We don't go looking for the same thing. So Mia does bring something different. And so, to draw something out of a dancer, which is something quite unique. I understand why you would definitely choose Mia. I mean, everybody has their favorites. And I am in the world of luxury where I sit with a box of candy so big that each flavor is different for me. So I love that. So you've answered my second question would be, okay, if you couldn't think of a duet, who would you like to work with as a choreographer? So your Mia Michaels thing is conjoined and done that. But we continually look for new choreographers. I have showcases. I'm afraid again this time we've had to postpone the East Coast one, but I have showcases where I invite agents and managers and to put in new choreographers, because rarely does any of us get the opportunity to showcase our talent. And I always say, don't send me a show reel of what you've done for this or done for that, because I need to experience it in the room with you. Choreograph something that you think will work for So You Think. It doesn't always work. Not even the best choreographers. Not even the best choreographers will come to the show and put something on and get a standing ovation. And and that happens in Broadway too with live shows, and hence out of town tryouts and things. But we are continually refreshing and replenishing because without question, new choreographers and new choreographies every season will bring something fresh and something new. However, I will also say that they bring the same things that over 16 years we've seen, but you just need to repackage. So I love the fact that we can open up doors to fresh talent.
How do you, I guess, for those listening, both on the contestant side and the choreographer side, what's the best advice you would give to somebody who wants to either be on the show as either a contestant or a choreographer?
I think the answer I have is for both. Be memorable. Don't be bland. Don't bland into the walls. Stand out. Make something special. Be yourself. Bring yourself to the platform. Just that. When we walk out the room, you say, who is that girl with long blonde hair, black shorts, and that red top? There'll be 28 of them. But you say, who is that girl that stood up and was explosive on that floor? So that's what it is. Just be memorable. And for choreographers, there is such a wealth available now on so many social media platforms. You can look back and reference and see what has worked and what hasn't worked, in your opinion. So you have like a textbook of what works. As far as the dancers are concerned, we never look to replace anybody else. We never go back to find a Lex Ishimoto. We'll never go back to find a Twitch. We We just don't want to. We've had them. So again, be individual and be unique. I get into trouble with this. Normally at the auditions, I say, hands up, who's here to follow your dream? I'll guarantee you that 95% put their hands up. And I said, okay, now look behind you and see where that exit door is, because that's where you need to go. This is not a dream. This is real. And you have to work for it and work very hard for it, because you're not going to wake up tomorrow being America's favorite dancer. However, dreams are inspirational and motivational. Dream on, but you need to work for it. And it's those people that literally put themselves out and work very, very hard. Ricky Ubeda came up to me once and said, I've been working all my life to come do this show. And I thought, jeez. We've been around that long. I'm that old, and you've been around that long. But people are, I'm using your words, we call them athletes of dance. They are now training. They are now training to be part of what they see is available to them, and what the show can give them a platform, a showcase, and a spotlight to move on. But you have to work very, very hard. It is hard work. And for the choreographers, I always say, now listen, if you've never done this show before, don't come in thinking, I've seen it. I teach people. I know how hard it is. This show is a monster, and it really is a totally different level to work is. And I say, this is how I try and explain it. I contract a carpenter. I give him plumber's tools and ask him to build a wall. You have no choice. You don't have the luxury of choosing your dancers. You walk in, and that's where the craft and expertise of our choreographers most of the time work. I have been in a situation where it hasn't. I won't mention any names, but the marriage hasn't worked at all. And so, it doesn't always work.
Well, if you need any guest judges for this fall, I'll put my hand up for that. I've been training my whole life to be a guest judge.
Listen, if the list of guest judges that we have people who astoundingly say, I'd love to come on board. And we've had some amazing guest judges, not literally just in the specific world of choreographers. We've had all our alumni choreographers virtually on the panel. We've had people, Lady Gaga, Ellen DeGeneres, Anna Kendrick, Jesse Tyler Ferguson, Neil Patrick Harris, Benjamin Millepied. You name it. We've had Debbie Reynolds. We've had such a plethora of guest judges, but we always feel that there is the voice of the people at home that's going to watch and be the judge and jury, which is great. And we have those people that have been on in their professionals. And we've, right across the board, we've had it. So I would love you to remain a judge, even if you watch it. But I will say to you that if you get yourself out to LA when we are on air in August, maybe bring your microphone with you. Maybe come and set up and do...
Ooh.
And just come and do a Broadway choreographer and do it backstage, do an on-site. Come and talk to us. Please be my guest. I'd love to have you over here. You can, we are live. So it would be something I'd be very happy to set up for you if you were to come over.
I would love that. I am most definitely going to take you up on that.
Well, please do, yeah. By all means. And not that I'm winding it up, but I just feel that, in certainly in a time that we're going through now, these turbulent, crazy times where Broadway is closed down, the West End is closed down, the television studios are closed down for the time being. Any form of entertainment and art is so wonderful, whether it be podcasts, whether it be online, whether it be streaming, just keep. Entertainment is an uplifter. It's a great medicine for everybody to have. And, with people like you that keep it going and keep it moving and keep it fresh. I watched the Rosie O'Donnell show the other day live on YouTube, and the amount of people that gave in, and Elton John on Fox gave one over the weekend. This in this time of uncertainty and turbulence, it's amazing what people do to bring people together in what we can do. And so therefore, if you take what's achievable and see what is there for you and to literally achieve, add that and apply that to what you need to do, whether you are coming as a dancer or as a choreographer or any work of life. So, boom, I sound like I'm giving a lecture in freaking, I don't know, life. But you know what? We're capable of so much.
That was probably like the answer to my second closing question, which is, what advice would you give to your younger self and younger people, right? Like, you just answered it. That was a perfect answer.
I don't think when I was a younger person, I had that wealth of knowledge or experience, or métier is a French word, métier, which is like your apprenticeship. I think about growing older and living life longer enables you to look back and reflect and see the generation. Now, I love trying to understand. I mean, you and I, how much the technical stuff we were going through to get this working, that I had no idea what this button was or that button was. So I absolutely love to learn. But I think looking back, if I were to, I know this is one of your questions, if I were to give any advice to myself, is have open ears, open eyes, open mind, open heart, and go for it as much as you can. I know everybody says like, go for it, go for it, go for it. But you kind of need to know that actually it's out there if you just search for it and find it.
I could not agree more. That is, just keep saying yes, and what you really want to do is going to make itself apparent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there maybe little blockades and little bit of closed doors, but the path doesn't stop. You just turn a different way. A different way.
Completely. So that was question number 2. So the first question, we'll go back to what motivates you.
I think what motivates me, again, is people say to me, what is it about So You Think You Can Dance that it was the best thing? And I say the best thing about, for me, So You Think You Can Dance is something that people never really see. And that is the kids. I call them my kids. They will always be my kids. I've seen them grow up from 18 to where they are now. They motivate me and push me, and my goodness, they're like homing pigeons. They open a door and window, they all come flying in. I love the fact that we maintain. I've never in my entire career be dancer, choreographer, or producer worked on any show like this. So the motivation comes from them. They motivate me to motivate myself. To be able to, like Twitch and Allison, I was the officiant at their wedding. Dimitri got married to his wife as officiant at their wedding. I recently flew back to Washington, D.C. for a sad occasion, which was Danny Tidwell's memorial, and spoke about Danny then. And so to have had these kids come into my life, I feel that I think I would have passed. I would have died never being a parent. They've touched seeds in me that allowed me to discover myself. So their motivation is my motivation, and I hope that never goes. I don't think they will allow me to. Sometimes I think, oh, well, I continually lecture them, continually tell them what they should do, but they teach me so much. So that's my motivation, their motivation.
Beautiful. And the closing question, which, as you know, because you've listened to the podcast, is if you could see one show for the rest of life, but I want to change it for you to be if you could only watch one routine from So You Think for the rest of your life, but you can watch it as many times as you want, which one would it be?
Like you, I can't answer that because there's so many variants throughout the show, and I think that the routine isn't just literally about the performance. It's all the elements I said. It's about the choreographer, the dancers, the music. So I actually don't have one. I have many, many favorites, but I will answer the other one. If I could just watch one show for the rest of my life, but
go ahead.
I'd have a caveat. I would have to also be in it. Okay.
Okay.
To watch it and be in it for the rest of my life. Chorus Line.
Oh, I think you're the first for Chorus Line.
All
right.
I would like to think that's me. I'd like to think I'd be up there. I need this job. I really need this job.
Well, I'll introduce you to Donna McKechnie. You two can,
oh my God.
chat.
I actually had the pleasure of working with her once on a very special Night of 100 Stars Gala. So I absolutely, I just feel that for me, a Chorus Line, it's such a memorable show. When I saw it in the UK, back in the 70s, I'd never seen a show where I felt it was speaking to me. And so it's always been my favorite, and I love it. It's so the original Chorus Line production with an English, although I'm an American citizen now, an English person. And I wouldn't be the best one in it, but I'd less love to be in it. So,
all right. Well, then you're on social media, on Instagram at Jeff Thacker. You're not on Twitter, right? I didn't find you on Twitter.
Yes, it's on So You Think You Can Dance Family. SYTYCD Family. It's on Twitter.
All right.
And Instagram.
And you can get more of me at thetheaterpodcast.com/Patreon and Instagram and Twitter, theater_podcast. Please leave a rating, leave a review. This is edited by Matthew Hendershot. Thank you to Jukebox the Ghost for the intro and outro music. And Jeff Thacker, thank you most of all. This has been so much fun.
Well, listen, thank you so much for inviting us in. And I'm so glad that you're a fan because we're a fan of everybody you speak to on there. So please keep up the good work. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Social distancing, and we'll be out of this very soon, and the curtain will rise back onto that stage, and we'll be back on air.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.